Right. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Chad.
How you doing?
How are you? I'm doing great.
Great. Happy New Year.
It's amazing how fast the new year comes.
Wow, I can't believe it. 2024. Hey, for those friends that are joining us, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and who 454 Creative is?
Oh, yeah, great. I am Paul. I'm the CEO of 454 Creative. I started this company 20 years ago in my parents' attic, which has been a fun, windy journey of where we're at today. 454 is a digital marketing agency. We primarily focus on organizations that have this more complex sales or marketing process, things like credit unions, higher ed, B2B professional services. And so the technology conversation, the buyer behavior conversation, this is always a fun place to start at the beginning of the year because
Yeah,
things change so fast.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think we've worked together for a couple of years already, and it's crazy from the seat that I kind of sit in on the operation side to see how much transformation there's been in technology over the last couple of years. And I think it'd be good if we kind of talk about what we see or what you see for 2024, kind of what are like the big themes or big trends that we need to watch out for. And I think like an obvious one to start with is probably AI, because it feels like that's what everybody is talking about in this.
Everybody, that there isn't a single issue that doesn't have AI slapped into it somewhere.
Right, the year of AI. So maybe just kind of recap like this kind of AI tools and technologies, they popped onto the scene early in 2023 and they just seem to have like taken over everything. So where are places that you're running into AI on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, AI started with the idea of generating lots of copy or code or something that was, that if we rewound 2 years, the conversation centered around machine learning,
Mhm.
allowing computers to find patterns and process data a little bit faster. And then ChatGPT came on the scene and it just kind of blew everybody away with the ability to write long form copy or to code applications or to provide some sort of thing that would replace a human. When we talk about writing a blog article or a sales email or a standard operating procedure, all of a sudden we realize, wow, this is really good and much better and faster than an average human could do in that period. And so
Right.
then from there, that started to just explode. Right now we have AI tools to generate images, even things like Photoshop or video editing software has. You took the picture, but you don't like the background, or you want to swap out something. And now generative AI is even producing better images in a style than you could do or hire a photographer yourself, ish. Right?
Yeah.
But by and large, you're able to produce crazy things. Right? I want a penguin in the style of a Picasso painting, ice skating across a lake, and you're like, that's ridiculous, but yet it turns out something incredible. You're like, that's exactly what I needed.
Right. Right.
So yeah, you're seeing this in content creation, and content could be both text or image or video.
Yeah.
The video is still, it's still a little bit more complex. Image, I think, is getting pretty good.
Yeah.
But now AI is in just about every application, everything from creating ads, right?
Mhm.
Google and Meta and all those other tools are saying, hey, we don't want you creating ads anymore. Kind of give us the rough parameters and AI will take care of the rest.
Mhm.
It just sort of bleeds into everything from applications, categorization, even things like HubSpot and a marketing CRM. You'll say, hey, find me all the contacts that are in Southern California that have shown interest in our product, and HubSpot will build a list for you.
Mhm.
So it's kind of bleeding into everything.
Yeah, I was just in HubSpot the other day drafting an email, and you can highlight a section of text and it can rewrite that text in a different tone, or it can make it more concise, or it can expand it. And surely it's not a perfect solution because you get some really wordy, really funny, verbose sentences packed in there. But where are you seeing it like actually be useful and helpful? I mean, where have you even used AI in your day-to-day work?
Oh, totally. I think one of the actual shocking most useful features is Zoom's AI summaries of meetings.
Yeah.
Even meetings that I'm not involved in, our team will tag me in or add me to it. And at the end of that meeting, Zoom will send out a meeting summary that says, here are the big points that we're talking about, here are the action items at the end. It gives me a quick pulse check on where things are at, so almost to the point where I'd rather not attend the meeting and just
Right.
resend a summary. So those are really, really helpful. And I think they obviously have some oddities that are tied into it. Every
Sure.
once in a while, if I get tired and punchy, I'll throw in some weird comments to see what AI does to it. But yeah, those are very helpful to me. Things that I use AI all the time for are things like writing standard operating procedures, or documentation, or any of those sorts of things where it would take me a good hour or two of focused work to get in and write out a standardized process. Copy.ai or ChatGPT will produce really good long form documentation process for us in seconds. And then you'll go in and kind of adjust that. And what would have taken you, 2 hours now takes 15, 20 minutes of good cleanup work of saying, yeah, that's good, that's good. This is not right. So you'll clean up a few of those things.
Yeah.
Things like job descriptions, stuff that is more factual and process oriented rather than creative.
Okay.
To your point, ChatGPT tends to be overly verbose, tends to be overly formal. It's not very engaging by default. But there are plenty of tools like Jasper or Copy.ai that you can set the tone in. And one of those things that I especially like doing is the average reader reads at roughly a high school reading level. As much as we don't like to think that, very few people are reading professional technical writing in a way that they're actually comprehending without having to reread it. Unfortunately, the internet has trained people to scan and not read. And so a lot of times the copy that we should be generating from a marketing perspective should be very short, very concise, very clear, customer-centric, and that requires some expertise to write. So oftentimes what we're doing is we're create the content over here on this tool, and then really clean it up and condense it over here. I mean, that's even a great use of it. Like for some of our podcasts that we're doing, I'll feed it the transcript from a recording like this and say, hey, write me a summary paragraph of the topic that'll then feed into. And I'll rewrite it because some of that stuff I don't want to be just copied and pasted. You'll realize in SEO that the more content that's being written, search engines will pick up a fingerprint from AI. And I think over time, people have been talking about this. I don't know how they're doing it just yet, but they're looking at ways of fingerprinting AI-generated copy to deprioritize it from search. So I always just want to include a human element to kind of make sure it fits. It's going to be in my tone, something that I would say rather than something that's just quick and easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that brings up a good point. It feels like for a while we were living in an era where content was king and it was all about content marketing and it was all about,
Totally.
inbound content strategies. And in some ways, content's becoming this kind of curious commodity where we really don't know, does it have value anymore? Can anybody generate it? Is there such thing as expertise? If ChatGPT can just write an article about something that I actually really have no knowledge of, but I can generate it. How do you feel like AI is going to change the course of content marketing?
As a human uh, who has built a business on expertise, this sort of thing is one of those things that you look back on and go, wait a minute, does this replace the human task element? I mean, if you think about what AI does, right, does well, it does well with standardized tasks and processes that essentially it's plagiarizing, right? If you think about that, right? It's going out to the internet, it's finding what the common accepted sort of thought process is, and then it's ripping it off and rewriting it to some degree, which is no different than what a high school or college student would do with their educational experience, right? We're trying to amass in and take in a bunch of data, and then we have some sort of informed or barely informed opinion on it, and we write it out in a long form paper. The very definition of expertise in a lot of this context is pattern recognition. So it is not surprising that something like AI would jump to the top of tasks that are highly repetitive or highly pattern dependent. Now, where I don't think that AI is going to replace a human is providing human emotional connection. And that is so fundamental to marketing, to sales, right? Like oftentimes what people are looking to buy is they're looking to buy something that's not a transactional commodity. They want something where somebody else has said, this is the right approach, this is the right tool. And they're looking for reassurance as much as they're looking for the product.
Yeah,
They want to know that they're making the right choice with this.
absolutely.
If it was just about product, you see how many knockoff products come over from overseas where they're literally just ripping off somebody else's sales copy or something else, and you see the typo in it, and the first instinct when you see that typo is, wait a minute, this is cheap,
Right.
right? And that destroys all the value. It may be actually it may be the same product at a tenth of the price, but now you view it as an inferior product
Right.
because of that sort of copy paste error approach that doesn't give you that weight of authenticity and emotional connection of what you're trying to create. So I
Yeah.
think that there is some nuance there of what we're looking at doing in this field of experts will remain experts because they will have a divergent view. Very rarely does AI deliver a divergent view. This is sort of my fear of what happens with ad strategy is because Google is moving to this, they call it performance max or PMax campaigns or
Right.
demand gen campaigns. And what they're saying is, you guys don't worry about creating ad creative anymore. Just give us 15 headlines and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Give us the inputs. We'll do the rest.
Give us the inputs and then we're going to run it on whatever platform we want. Maybe a
Right.
display ad, maybe a search ad, maybe a shopping ad, maybe a remarketing ad, maybe a Gmail ad. We're going to figure it out. And because the AI works faster, we're going to figure out faster and you'll get better results. That works in the short term. But then the more people that are giving that to AI, there is no longer a divergent view. There's nothing that's cutting through the noise. So eventually everybody starts to look vanilla.
Yeah.
And so everybody's cost structure goes up. Everybody is operating in this framework. And the person that really wins out of that is Google,
Absolutely.
right? And so they're getting more money. You're competing with more people. You don't have any levers to pull anymore and say, here are the gaps where people are not doing that. And so they're actually removing a lot of that reporting and ability for you to segment and say, I want to run this campaign and not this campaign. I'm even seeing that now with a client as they see this huge performance improvement from their PMax campaigns. And so they start transitioning to them. And as we do a deeper analysis, we realize that all the PMax campaigns are doing is cannibalizing their 3 other campaigns in a way that they didn't want to. They're using their brand name and the primary results are coming from that brand name of the organization. So they're paying for an ad and Google is taking credit for it and taking the revenue for it, whereas the person would have landed on that website anyway. Right. And granted, they have, there are ways of fixing some of this, but not all of them, right? The other thing that they're doing is they're injecting a bunch of stuff. This particular example is a credit union, and it injected the word bad credit. So credit cards for bad credit. I'm like, we don't want those.
Right.
And how do I exclude them? So now I have to do an account level exclusion. And some of those things I can exclude at the account level, but some I can't because they have other remarketing campaigns that they want to remarket for their brand name.
Right.
So there is this like mess that we're going to step into with AI as we're trusting Google or computers or whatever to do the best thing for us. And then when we find out it's not the best thing for us, it may be too late. There might not be recourse to go back to a manual campaign, which is sort of Google's model in some of these things.
Yeah. Well, I think too, I mean, you talked about kind of the human element in all that and how this commoditization of content just means that the personal and the human becomes all that much more valuable because then we know it's real.
Right.
And I do think I wonder how it will raise the profile of video content or raise the profile of things like this, like a podcast or an interview where now, okay, these are actually two human beings speaking from their expertise and their experiences and not just some text that's been generated by AI that's been put on a blog post, hoping to gain some clicks or traffic.
And what's funny is, absolutely. Chatbots, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, that was the biggest thing. Get people to the support information that they need, automate it with the chatbot. And then everybody saw it and goes, forget that, I want to talk to a human.
Right.
So chatbots worked really well, then they stopped sort of working. I just shared with our team a new tool that I saw that was really cool, where it's a real human that's asking those same questions that you would have put in a chatbot and asking them for the responses, but it creates this human connection and emotional authenticity that is doing a lot of the same things, but there's now attaching a human element, a face to it.
Right.
There are video AI tools, and they're impressive in that they're making video from AI in an automated way pretty fast. You feed it a script and it does it. But it's still AI. You look at it and go, this is not real. And I think that there's a novelty to that, but the novelty will wear off. I don't think it's that far away until video-driven AI will be good enough.
Yeah.
So eventually this tool will go away too. But I think that there's these pockets, there's these windows of a quarter or a year or whatever that time period is, where you can cut through the noise and deliver that authenticity and that value to somebody, and where you're going to get that human connection again, until it becomes noise, until everybody goes, we're going to do that, and technology catches up, and now everybody's doing that. And I think that's the interesting ground that we're playing in, right? Like, we're sort of on this cusp of, what the internet was 20 years ago when I started this agency, of this novelty and this excitement and this buzz that's all generated around it, and it evolves and evolves and evolves and evolves. And now we're at this other sort of big inflection point with AI of, oh my gosh, we can do all of these cool things, and isn't it cool? And oftentimes we're just doing them because you can do them.
Yeah.
But now it's got to become a business case. Does it turn into more revenue? Does it turn into more customers, more engaged brands, more satisfaction, more happy people, right? Does it yield a better life for the people that we serve?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and does it become a differentiator if we do leverage the technology, or if we choose not to leverage the technology, maybe depending on our industry? I actually just had the experience of submitting a support ticket to a company, and I got back a video of the support tech talking me through how to solve it, and it was genius. And it's the first time that's ever happened to me, with a support interaction, and it forever left a mark on me in terms of this company and their technology. So I think choosing to leverage these more human, more personal interactions is going to be a game changer in the face of just all this like AI noise.
Yeah.
Okay, so in our last couple minutes, how should companies think about leveraging AI in 2024? And then maybe what should they stay away from and maybe let time prove?
Play out?
Worthy or unworthy.
I mean, if you're not using AI now, the easiest sort of entry point is to use a tool like copy.ai or jasper.ai to write long form, or even like just to kind of redo a reform copy. One of the things that we do in organizational brand messaging is to make sure that the things that you're saying fit your brand voice. And what I love about tools like this is you can actually define what you want your brand voice to be.
Yeah.
We want a conversational, educational tone written at a high school or a college reading level, or an academic tone or professional tone. You kind of define all those parameters, and then you can feed it the paragraph or the page or whatever you're going to write, and it'll rewrite it for you. You can say, okay, this is now what I'm looking for. So it'll create some brand standards for you that unify your brand.
That's great.
But then so many things that, like, I find uses of it so often of, write this job description in California. It includes all of the legal requirements of what you need to do, because AI knows, and oftentimes we forget. Right. Things like creating personas for your marketing, things like writing standard operating procedures for your lead generation or demand generation or LinkedIn connection requests. Lots of little things that just take a little bit of a mental toll. You can now pull out, drop into a system like Notion, document it, and now you have standard operating procedures that previously would have been, huge and impressive, labor intensive, and now could be just commonplace and easy with a few extra clicks. So that's
great.
probably the easiest entry point.
Yeah.
And then after that, there's so many things that you can do beyond that as an organization if you step into the professional realm. Learning models specifically for your data set or your organization become really powerful. I know like staffing agencies that are using it to analyze like what a person says and score them for integrity. Like, oh my goodness, that's brilliant, right? Like there's so many cool applications to this. Depending on what your organization does, AI will become infiltrated into everything you do in a good way, right? Like if you're a credit union and you want to rate customer sentiments on every call, you can do that. It's so easy. There's so many cool applications of it. Just as we were talking about, we do so much of our professional life on Zoom these days. Turning on the AI Zoom summaries will be a game changer for an executive team. You can get a pulse check on every meeting if you wanted one.
Yeah, that's great. Anything they should stay away from?
I think one of those things is you have to know the game you're playing. So
Mm,
if you look at something and you know that it's not as a human would have done it, don't claim that a human did it.
that's good.
Right. So as you're looking at sales copy and you don't want to write the sales copy, if it's not good enough, don't send it.
Yeah.
Right. Spend the time and rewrite it.
Yeah.
Use an outline and rewrite it. The if you are willing to say, whatever, ChatGPT wrote this for me, then it's fine to do. If you want to come off as a human and you used AI to do that, chances are you're going to look dumb. You're going to look like you have egg on your face. And
Yeah.
that actually erodes authenticity and trust.
Absolutely. Yeah. Double check the work, I think maybe is the the name of that game. Did you hear about the attorney that turned in briefs to the court that
Oh,
included
man.
cases that don't exist because
They
he
got
asked
disbarred, right?
he asked ChatGPT to write the brief, and so it made up a whole bunch of case law because he didn't tell it had to be actual cases.
Oh, man.
And
There's a
so
name for that. Do you know what the name is?
no,
Oh, yeah, there's a name for that. It's, shoot. There's a name when AI lies, and it's escaping me right now. We'll
that's
ask
funny.
ChatGPT later.
There
If
you
you're
go.
listening to this, just post it in the comments.
So double check your work when you use AI for sure, for sure. Well, thanks. I think those are great things to be thinking about and looking out for in the year ahead. How can 454 kind of come alongside organizations as they're exploring these things?
Oh, man. So many different ways. I mean, what we want to do is to help organizations grow.
Yeah.
So, and that's really around marketing and sales process. If you have questions on how to integrate this in your marketing and sales process, or if you're struggling, I think the easiest thing or one of the most important things for an organization to do is provide process documentation on what the actual process is that you're using to generate growth. If you don't own your system, if you're just trusting that Google's going to have your best interest in mind, or that social media is going to be the solution for everything, it's going to be a sad, hard year for you or the next coming years. This is going to be a tough rate environment for most organizations as it relates to the economy is going to be going through this tumultuous period. There are going to be some organizations that win and some that lose, right? And so we want you to be a winner. We want you to find the right tools. And the right answer to that, the good approach to that, is for you to understand exactly what you're doing and what's driving growth, so you can stop doing the things that are driving waste.
Yeah, that's good. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for your time today.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.